Hello, everybody, and welcome to Taiwan Talk, where we share the stories of Taiwanese people living abroad and people living in Taiwan. I'm your host, Trevor Tortomasi, and joining us in the studio today is Stephen Rong.
Hello, that's not my name.
Otherwise known as Rong.
I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you because you've been so worried about my name.
I wanted to make sure I spell it with a PH or a V. Right. Well, you have a long list of things that you do. Renaissance man of performance. Singer, actor, dancer, podcaster, DJ. I guess I was going to start out by asking you about your singing. When did you get started with that?
So I was a biology major in college, and then I was at Virginia Tech. So we had the massacre of Virginia Tech.
Right.
I hate calling it that, but that's what most people coin it as. But that was in 2006. So that was a situation that really made me wake up, and I realized that life is very short. So then I had always had the dream of singing, but since I lived in Virginia, I just didn't really have a platform or stage, or even it didn't really make sense to me that would ever become a reality. So I was like, oh, I'll just become a dentist, like, you know, a good old boy. And then after that shooting happened, I woke up and I was like, you know, like I'm still young and I really wanted to try to sing. And before that, my singing experience was really either in the shower or in the car.
Okay, so I'm about that level too.
Yeah. So you never know; the possibilities are endless.
Just need a wake up call, of some sort.
So then I traveled to Hong Kong for a year, and I have relatives there. So I was there and took lessons for singing, and then 星光大道, like it was like a very popular singing competition. It was like the American Idol of Taiwan for a while. I decided to come to Taiwan to try out for that, and then I made it to like top 50. Got disqualified, and then another one. So
when you say disqualified, that means you're just like you weren't voted to go forward, right?
Right. So then
it's kind of an aggressive word for.
Well, yeah. Well, it's true though, and to me, I think that's like the thing for me is like I thrive whenever people don't believe in me. I don't know. I've gotten to like a point in my life where I realized that I'm used to it, like people not believing that I can do something, and then like a little part of me is always like, who the hell are you to tell me what to do? So then like I work even harder to like do what I want to do so that I can prove to myself and also prove to people who don't believe that I could do it. With a little bit of spite, because it does feel really nice sometimes to be like, in your face.
A healthy amount of spite. It's a healthy amount of spiking the volleyball into their side of the court. Okay, so I actually want to ask about this beautiful singing group. There's got to be a better name for that. Choir?
It's an acapella group.
Acapella group. Yeah. And it's called Awkwapella?
Yeah.
Aqua, like awkward? Like
awkward.
Okay. Well, for reference, it's a singing group in which you are all pretty great at singing and you make beautiful music together. So you can't really tell how awkward you are.
Well, one would hope.
Okay.
I do think we do need to practice a lot. Like we're all singers in our own respect, but it's very different when you're a solo artist versus being in a group that's a cappella, because you have to rely on your voice and also like the dynamics and also blending and stuff. And all of us are very like, we have our own ways of singing and our own voices. So when you have to blend those together, it can be quite cacophonous when you first start. So it's nice. It's fun. We do have performances in Taipei here and there. Our next performance will be May 13th.
Oh, good. Okay. This will be out by then.
Friday the 13th. So nice. I am making the theme Last Girl / Boy Standing. So basically our members and the group, like the audience, will be able to vote who they want, like who they think will live to the end of the show and who won't.
Or who will get disqualified. Again,
who will get disqualified.
Right. And you can plug your dark podcast at the end of it too.
All right. Sure. That's right. Okay. That's actually all part of the plan.
So in this group, you have people who audience might recognize, like Laura, Vicky Sun, Wang Dawen, and many others I can't remember right now.
Joanna Wang part of it. There's everyone in it is amazing. Echo is our beatboxer. I'm just there to kind of boss people around. I'm like the boss. I'm the bossy pants in it. To me, it's out of love because I do believe that we are a group that is really fun. We work really hard. We work really hard. And then we perform and we do these, like we don't make any money, but it's fun. It's nice to be able to have like a once a week thing where we can get together and practice and just be ourselves. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, so far, the title of this episode is Awkward Bossy Pants with a Healthy Amount of Spite.
Yes, with disqualification.
Disqualified for a healthy amount of spite.
The title's going to get long, like really, really long.
Is there a certain direction you'd like to take this group creatively in the future with?
The main leader of the group is actually Lara and Darwin, but right now both of them are in China right now working. So I've been kind of like the foster mom or dad. At the moment, my way is like I've been hoping that we do more philanthropic charitable work. So like for instance, the end of last year we did an online concert to try to raise money and funds for shelters, for dog shelters. And then we also sang at a cafe that is for youth who have delinquents. I don't know if that's the right word. Like they have committed crimes before when they're trying to get back into society. So they have a cafe specifically to help them. So we went and then we taught them some acapella and we all sing it together. And that was like super like touching. And that was a really nice experience. So I've been hoping to do more events like that.
Well, speaking of making people happy, oh, look, there's a dark path leading into a dark forest here.
Oh, my goodness.
You co-host a podcast called暗黑森林.
Yes.
And it's The Dark Forest.
Yes.
And each episode seems to be a narrative, a story, if you will, about the darker side of humanity.
Right.
How do you balance this? Where did this come from? For
The Dark Forest, the concept that I had behind it is I really love the podcast My Favorite Murder, which is Karen Kilgariff and Georgia Hardstark. It's a really popular true crime podcast in America. But I've always watched true crime documentaries since I was young. Like I am obsessed with it. I think the shooting at my school is a big part of that as well. Things like that have always been really interesting to me just because I do believe in the good of people, but I also am very intrigued by why certain people kind of veer off into a path where they either kill other people or they hurt other people. There has to be a reason why people are like that. For me, my father was an alcoholic, and so I grew up in a household where my mom was very, very strong and my brother as well. And because we had a very close relationship, my mom, my brother and I was very fortunate to have like a support system. But I know a lot of people are not that fortunate. And a lot of the people that do end up committing crimes did go through a childhood that was very like scary, or they were traumatized or abused. And so I kind of just want to bring that to light because I don't want people just to think that these criminals, when we see them on the news, it's already too late to save them. Like they've already committed the crime. So with this podcast, The Dark Forest, that was like my main objective. I want to tell these stories. We tell 2 cases each week. And so with each case, we usually try to explore like the reason behind why it happened and why it occurred, or are there possible ways that we can prevent it? So it takes a lot of time to research for these cases. Like for me, each case that I have to research, that takes about 5 to 6 hours a week. And then I have to edit the podcast, which takes another 7-8 hours a week. So that's 15 hours of non-paid work. But for me, like because of like the interactions with my listeners, like I think it's worth it. Like even though I get 2 hours of sleep, like it's still okay. Like I love it. Yeah.
The podcast editing business is
God,
real.
I like want to kill myself like all the time, but I won't because I don't want to show up on my own podcast. I want to make sure that I stay alive.
I shouldn't be laughing at that. All right. So what do you...
Inappropriate laughing. I'm just kidding.
That's one of the sound levels where we tested for laughing before we started. So speaking on a few of your other sort of performance aspects of your life, one of the first times I met you a few years ago, I think it was after like a Red Room or something. And we were talking about your background. You said you could come to Taiwan to try out acting. You said it casually, and now you're an actor. So how did that work out?
Most of the stuff I've been doing so far is commercials. So that was, how did I get into that was my manager was like, okay, well, the singing thing, like we don't really have the budget to release an album for you. So do you want to try acting? And I was like, yeah, I've always wanted to do that. So she just threw me into these auditions. And I remember the first one I went to was like for the MRT. It was like a commercial. And at that time, I wasn't very confident in my Chinese.
Really?
So yeah, because it's been an issue with me in acting even now. Like I do have an accent when I speak Chinese, and it's very difficult to get rid of accents. But like a lot of directors or producers, they might see that as, oh, like your Chinese is not good enough. So like being told that a lot, especially when I first got here, like it really got to my head, and I was like, oh, I guess my Chinese does suck. And then I would just double guess myself. But anyway, that audition was really a good way to kind of get into it, because after that, the auditions got a little bit easier. Like it wasn't like in a big room with a lot of people. But for the first year of auditions, I didn't get any jobs. And then I would always go home and like think that I was like the worst actor in the world, and just really like had a lot of self-doubt. And my first commercial, like the person that was casting me, like there was a little misunderstanding before I met her, but on the phone, like she like yelled at me. Anyway, when I did that audition, like my personality, like I said, where I'm like, I'll show you, right? So like after she yelled at me, I was like, just kind of like kind of internalizing all that anger, and then just like did my performance. And then she was like, oh my God, that was really good. And then I was like, oh, really? I was like, no one's ever complimented me before. And I ended up getting the job. Okay, nice. So that was like my first one. Like I had to get yelled at to get the job. So after that, like now, like I got more and more confident. Like for instance, I had like a commercial for a fast food chain. And then the casting director was like, you got to go home and practice eating. Like you have to like look like you really love it. Like when you eat, you have to smile at the same time. Your like eyes have to be big. Like
the picture of everyone eating a salad ever, where they're like
laughing at the salad. The salad tells the best jokes, basically. So then I got a camera, and then I just practiced like eating like hamburgers in front of the camera, and I would just give myself notes like, oh, when you're eating this, like what did you do this time and whatever, and like just made those little changes here and there, and I got that audition. So
that's
like,
dedication to the craft, man.
Well, I just really love hamburgers, so I think I was basically
doing
lying.
a self mukbang.
I was like lying to myself. I was like, this is for research, but I was just like eating 3 hamburgers and for research. Yeah. So slowly just doing all those different kinds of commercials and stuff, then now I'm getting...
You have a punch card, you do 10 commercials, you get an album.
Yeah, I hope so. Okay. I mean, like, I hope I don't lose that punch card.
Okay, so you recently interviewed the singer Michael Bublé. No one's ever made that joke before. I'm sorry about that.
I liked it.
No.
Keep it in. If you edit that out, I'm going to be so angry at you.
If I edit that out, I'm going to be impressed at my editing skills. So you asked him about the kind of headspace he lives in when he's getting ready for recording a song that sounds happy or warm or comforting. Has your acting experience helped you get into that headspace for performances in other aspects of your life, like your musical performance, or even talking about the darker side of humanity in a podcast?
Oh, that's a really good question. For me, I think acting comes a little bit more naturally when I want to get into that headspace. I kind of listen to the words, like that scene last week, the other actress, when she was saying these words, before going in, I was like, you know, when I read a script, I don't really feel anything. I'm kind of stoic when it comes to that, and it's kind of something I'm working on. But when I hear it in real life, and when the camera is on me, I kind of, those emotions come more naturally to me. I have to hear the audio. That helps me get into the headspace. But prior to, it's a little bit difficult for me to kind of get into the headspace, because I feel like that's more artificial. And so when it comes to singing, it's the same thing for me. Like it's a little bit more difficult for me to get into the headspace until I'm in the studio and like really connecting with the song as I'm singing it. But before that, I don't feel anything. It's kind of weird. Yeah.
Sometimes it's like you don't know what you're going to feel or what mistakes you're going to make until you try, and then your feedback is just the stumbling blocks along the way that you won't encounter until you start.
Right.
Yeah, and then having someone to bounce off too feels pretty good.
Yeah. One thing though I do realize is with everything that I do, whether it's hosting or singing and acting, is I really like to observe other people when they're working. Because I feel like everyone, no matter who they are, like they have something great about them, and then like they must love what they're doing to a certain extent. And so if you can kind of pick and choose like the things that they do, or the things that they do that you like or don't like, and then kind of apply it to yourself, I think that's like something that I really enjoy doing, is like borrowing these pieces and just figuring out which ones work for me and which don't.
You're also a DJ for Asia FM. How's that going?
That's good. Oh my God. Because of that, a lot of people in Taiwan, they look at me, they're like, oh, you're ABC. So when I'm like, I'm a radio DJ, they're like, oh, at ICRT? I'm like, no, I'm not at ICRT. Not because I didn't want to. I did audition but I never heard back. But I do think I sent it to the wrong place. So I think
Okay, you sent it to RTI.
I think
and RTI gets that a lot too.
something.
So.
I think I did send it to the wrong place because I did meet somebody later down the road that worked at ICRT, and I mentioned it, and they were like, "Really? But I'm the one who's like in charge of getting the auditions and never saw yours." So it's like I obviously sent it to the wrong place. But what's meant to be is meant to be. For me, when I applied to this radio station, it's all in Chinese. So I really wanted to prove to myself that I can host something in Chinese. So I really wanted to improve on that. In this industry, I think the hardest thing is nobody ever compliments you. Like they just don't. Most people don't.
And you mean in like all performance industries, I guess?
Pretty much. Like I think people are
comments and fans, you get compliments for sure, but like the people above you are like, dude, you did your job. Do the next one.
Sometimes they don't even say that. They're just like, okay, on to the next thing. So then you're just stuck there like, did I do okay? Like, there's a lot of things for you to kind of like, there's a lot of room for you to have self-doubt. And for me, as someone who wasn't born with a lot of self-confidence, it doesn't come naturally for me to think that I did well on something. So I have to make myself feel like I'm doing like pushing myself because no one else is going to be there to push you. And I think that's something I try to tell people who want to do this industry is like, I want them to know, like, you're not going to get the kind of feedback that you want all the time. You're not going to get the compliments. You're not going to get the praise. So you just have to believe in your own performance. Or if you really don't know how to believe in your own performance, you can go back and listen to your own audio recordings. You can go back and watch your own work. You can, if you don't have work yet because you're starting anew, do stuff with friends. Like, set up your own like little recording studio or like shoot your own videos and then watch yourself and then kind of study what are the things I like about it, what are the things I don't like about it. And you have to be very honest with yourself because nobody's really going to be there to be honest with you. Your friends are going to just be like, oh yeah, it's great. And then you're going to be like the American Idol contestants that go on and then they're like, who told them that they can sing?
Yeah, exactly. Or who never told them that they weren't good enough yet. You definitely need a certain healthy amount of pickiness, of TLT against yourself that you can say it's not good enough yet. A little bit of perfectionism goes a long way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is good advice for young aspiring performers from the Renaissance Man of Performance here, Stephen Rong. You can find him. Where can people see more of the stuff you make?
They can go to, please check out my true crime podcast. It's called 暗黑森林, and that is on anywhere that you can listen to podcasts. And then if you want to just kind of follow me, I guess you can go to Facebook or Instagram and you just look up Stephen Rong with a PH. Rong is RONG. Or you can look up on IG the Wrong One, or if Trevor wants to put it, the
Ron Gun.
The Wrong Gun. Yeah, so that's where you can find me.
Okay. Oh, listen to Awkwapella?
Yes.
Is that mostly on Instagram, or do you guys have a YouTube channel? Or?
We don't. We need to be better at social media. We're really lazy about it. But if you guys want to come to our show, it's going to be a small riverside in Gongguan on May 13th, on Friday the 13th. So.
All right. Looking forward to it. I'll definitely be there.
Thank you.
All right. And once again, Stephen Rong, thank you for listening. This has been Taiwan Talk.
See you. Bye-bye.
Until next time, I'm Trevor Tortomasi on ICRT FM 100. If you'd like to hear more from ICRT, you can check out our other podcasts. We've got Taiwan This Week, a roundup of the news in Taiwan every Friday, English in the News, for useful English expressions explained in Chinese, and EZ News, spelled with the letters E and Z, for simplified daily news. For some lighter news in both English and Chinese, check out News Bites and News for Kids. And if you enjoy them, tell a friend. Thanks for listening.